let's try this in unison. Good morning. Good morning. So good, so good. All right, so glad to be here. Glad to see so many of y'all. Glad the kids are with us. If you act up, I just forewarn you, I do not mind taking you down in Jesus' name. Gracie, I'm looking at you. So I just tell Gracie is like the wiggliest person on the planet. I'm telling Sean, are you going to be able to handle this? Gracie made me laugh the whole time. She's like, I wish there was just a spray. And she was talking about like a freeze spray. I'm thinking about like when your dogs act up, like so we won't do that. So hey, a couple weeks ago, Graham said, okay, you're preaching this Sunday. I asked him, what do you want me to talk about? We're starting a new series. And by the way, if you've missed the last two series, my goodness, you need to go to the YouTube channel and check them out. Because the series through Hebrews and Galatians were phenomenal. If you just want a better understanding of the gospel, you need to check out those series. So anyways, I was asking where we're going to be, what's the direction, are we starting something new, or do you just want me to cover some topic? So he's like, well, you did a work series several months ago. Why don't you do a follow-up on that? And so I thought, nah. Because it's my pastor. And, so this week I was praying about, like, God, what's the direction, what do you want us to hear from you this morning? So this morning, we're going to be talking about work. So, you're welcome, my pastor. Specifically this morning we're talking about faith and work, how the two go together. And before we get in, I want you guys to watch this video real quick, and then we'll get into this. So. Today might be a little bit more lectury than preachy. We're not going to be diving a whole lot into a lot of text today, but I promise there will be a lot of gospel today. If you're taking notes before we pray, I want to give you a couple resources. And just if you like listening or studying or just want some extra resources at your fingertips, these are phenomenal ones. One, if you just like listening to messages, teaching, sermons, a Jesus Church in Portland, Oregon, John Mark, has several incredible series on this topic. The first one is Garden City series, and the second one, appropriately titled Work series. And then also Tim Keller has some awesome content. You can just YouTube Tim Keller and Work, and tons of stuff will pop up from both from Redeemer and then Gospel Coalition. The other two websites that I want to tell you about, and if you missed this morning, I did put them on the My House Church page. So if you missed writing this down, two really great resources, super practical, whether it's just like back to what does my work look like, how do I apply, gospel in day to day. We're just really diving into the theology of work. One is thetheologyofwork.org, and then the other website, and this really comes out of Redeemer in New York City, is faithandwork.com. So again, those are on the MySpace or the My House Church. Wow, I just went back in time. Wow. Yeah. Okay. I guess we should pray. Let's do that. Father, thank you for this morning. God, I thank you for the gift of family and that you have adopted us into yours, Lord, that you called us sons and daughters. And God, I ask, Lord, that you would speak to us all this morning. I ask that your Spirit would be our teacher, and God, that I would simply be your instrument for delivering your good news. In Jesus' name, amen. So again, faith and work is what we're talking about this morning. To lay a foundation, we're going to start with this. Graham has gone back to this many times this year, but what is the greatest command? Well, the greatest command is to love God and to love others. Now, how do we do that? How do we love God? We love God by obeying his commands, by knowing him, seeking him. But how do we do that well? Well, I think a lot of times with good intentions, I think we make a couple mistakes. The first mistake we make is we start with this whole, I'm going to love God really well. We start with the do's and don'ts, moral obligation. If we can just be good or good enough. And when we take this approach, we can take two roads very well traveled. The first is, again, we just try to be good, but this is more like grading on a very generous, self-focused curve. Our A in class is solely based on just being better than someone else that you think is worse. That's it. The second is not unlike the first. It's being a Pharisee. We do all the right things. We are holy. We sacrifice. We live pure lives. We serve. We imitate some form of devotion, and we judge others like it's a sport. Second mistake that we can make is we will jump right in to the Great Commission to make disciples and teach them to obey. Now, we're going to unpack this a lot, so don't start throwing stones at me just yet. Although this making disciples is a command, this is true. It is a huge part of the gospel. It is a gross misunderstanding, incomplete at best, of what we are called to do fully. If we merely camp out on the Great Commission to make disciples, oftentimes we water down our mission to evangelistic activities that are, I think we assume, are just reserved for missionaries, church outreaches, Sunday mornings, church classes, retreats, conferences. This view also assumes that gospel work is reserved for pastors, priests, monks, nuns. Pleasing God and living out the Great Commission will always be a huge disconnect if we do not view our lives or this world through the lens of the gospel. And this is the gospel narrative. Creation, fall, redemption, restoration. That is the entire narrative of the gospel. Okay? We see it in our own lives. We see it in the brokenness in the world. We see it when we read Scripture. We see it when we read through all of the books of the Bible and the letters. This is the gospel story. Creation, fall, redemption, restoration. Now, this is the narrative that we have to view everything through. All of life. And it all starts with creation. Now, before there was the fall, there was what theologians call the cultural mandate. We talked a lot about this last time. It's been called the cultural mandate or the creation mandate. So just to recap a little bit from last time, and we really camped out on Genesis chapter 1 and 2. In that mandate, we tend to camp out on the go forth and multiply. And that's it. And we can talk about it, and we can chuckle about that, and what does that really mean? But when we really unpack that, there's a lot. I mean, if we're going to go forth and multiply, it means that we've got to... So, my brother and his wife, they have a little baby. But they, even though they have a diaper bag, they can pretty much pick up and go and do things. For our family, it gets a little bit more complicated. There has to be a little bit more structure. I have a friend that has 7 kids. For their family, there has to be more structure, right? Go forth and multiply requires some creating culture, some organizing. But for us last time, to give us a fuller understanding, a more holistic understanding, and some language that we can really sink our teeth in and apply, we said that the cultural mandate can be summed up in these 3 words. And again, if you're taking notes, these are the words. Create, cultivate, and care. The cultural mandate, the creation mandate that God gives His children, His people, is to do like Him, to create, to cultivate, and to care for His creation. This is the mandate that we were given from the very, very beginning. Go make. Go create culture. Go build cities. Go discover and dream and create art and music and cultivate and improve and care for each other and care for this world. Everything that we do, whether it is for a paycheck or not, can be defined and described in this mandate to create, cultivate, and care for it. This mandate was given in the beginning and is given to us now. Never stopped. God gives this mandate to His creation, you and I, so that we can participate in communion, in relationship with our Creator. I've always told my kids this, and I love this. Our Creator, God, created His creation, us, to be creative. That's really awesome. Our Creator created His creation to be creative. God creates, He cultivates, He cares for His creation. And He made us in His image and likeness to do like Him. And it's not just, okay, here's your description, go. We join God in His work. Now, just like God and His children, us, in Sean and I's home, our children participate in creating the culture of our family. What they do and how they do it isn't dictated to them. Some of it is. But they participate in our culture. They participate in being creative. They participate in the work of the home. They cultivate better ways. They participate in sharing, in serving, in sacrificing for one another, for the family. And our kids, and this is a bigger gospel understanding right here, and it helps us to get to the Great Commission, but our kids participate in restoring things that get broke and wounded. Our kids participate in that. And I'm not just talking about, well, if they get in a fight, an argument, okay, well, you guys need to go figure this out and make that. That is part of it, but even more so, even in Sean and I's relationship with one another, our kids, when there has been brokenness or wounds in our relationship, our kids participate in the restoration and the healing of what's broken or wounded. They're not too young to create. They're not too young or immature to cultivate. They're not too young to care, to restore, heal. They are part of the culture of our home. Now, that's not our home. But for you and I, in the bigger gospel story, after creation, things broke. Creation was wounded by itself. Creation wounded itself. We call this the fall. And for some reason, the fall becomes, for most of us, the focus of the gospel story, and we forget the mandate. What I want us all to hear today, to encourage one another, to take home, to apply, to remember, is this: that the fall did not, the fall does not negate the mandate. Yes, we're broken. Yes, there's broken relationship between us and God. Yes, all those things happen. Yes, sin is in the world. Yes, we have this nature about us. Yes, I hope you, for those that were here last week and those that weren't, I hope you'll listen to the message. As Graham wrapped up Galatians, he talked about brother or sister that is caught in sin. And it's not like this, oops, I've been caught. It's more like this sin that is chasing after you and it grabs a hold. Because I don't think any of us just wake up in the morning and we're like, agenda 1, sin. Check. No, I mean, it's chasing after us. And we're all born into that. But that does not negate the mandate to do good, to love God and to love others, to be creative, to cultivate better ways, to care for. We are still called by God to be businessmen, entrepreneurs, scientists, architects, builders, carpenters, writers, managers, servants, visionaries, farmers, ranchers, artists, teachers, principals, police, doctors, students, mothers, fathers, pastors, workers, explorers, neighbors, PTA members, trash men. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a trash man so bad. They're the coolest, just rocking on the back of the truck. They're always doing this thing, like, I'm gonna fall, but they're holding on and just, they're just so cool. Trash men are so cool. The fall does not negate the mandate to create, cultivate, and care for culture. As children of God, made in His image and likeness, we are invited into relationship. We are adopted into relationship, into the family business, to do as God does. Again, fall doesn't negate this. However, due to the fall, a great big part of the mandate now is to restore what is broken. If we're to do the creative part, and that looks all kinds of different ways. If we're to cultivate and learn and make better ways, and that looks under different ways. And we're supposed to care for. Part of caring is restoring. If something is broke, then part of caring is fixing what is broken. A big part of the mandate, what God has called us to do, is to restore what is broken. In obedience to God, as an act of worship to God, we join God in restoring what is broken. Remember the gospel narrative: creation, fall doesn't negate the mandate, redemption, restoration. We're part of that gospel story, you and I. We are part of His story. That's what we talk about here, right? The house church. The house church is about His story. His family. His mission. We are part of His story. Adopted as family members to do His work. We join God in His mission to do His work in restoring what is broken. And when we understand that, when we understand our place in God's story, when we live this out, this sums up where we started. Love God and love others. We love God by obeying Him and joining Him in His mission to restore all that is broken, all that is lost. We're part of the gospel story. See, again, fall doesn't negate the mandate. The Great Commission also doesn't negate the mandate. But the two go hand in hand. The Great Commission to go and make disciples and teach them to obey is fulfilled only by obeying the first mandate. Making disciples is an extracurricular for our spiritual life. The two go hand in hand. Work matters to God. Again, work, whether it is for a paycheck or not, because listen, we all know that work isn't just defined by our career or by the paycheck. When we go home at night, we're working, right? We've got bills, we've got chores, we've got raising our children, we've got serving our spouse. And that's work. It is all part of God's plan. Church, you and me, we must encourage each other, pray for, spur one another on to practice living into the truth that mandate, aka work, and commission, make disciples, are in tandem with one another. They're not two things that are part of our spiritual life that we check off. That we're good at one. No, they're in tandem with one another. They go hand in hand. That is gospel. That is God's family on mission. That's loving God and loving others. That's obedience, and that is our spiritual act of worship. Now, again, for all of us, where the rubber fails to meet the road, it's because we view our spirituality as just moral obligation, do good, don't do bad, or spiritual activity like reading our Bible or going to church. Again, don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying don't read your Bible, don't go to church. Those aren't bad things. Being here this morning in faith community, gathering, serving one another, learning, worshiping together in community is good. We are called to that. And God does His work in community. God created creation in community. God is on mission in community. I'm just saying that this morning, although good, is only a fraction of it all. It's like this. Date nights are important. We've been trying to have date night for 2 months, and we haven't been able to make it happen. Finally, Friday, and it was awesome. If you haven't been to 503 West, you need to go, because it is bomb sauce. So good. Date nights are important, but date nights are not the entirety of our marriage. It'd be pretty awesome if it was. But it's not. Family reunions. I mean, whether it's Ross family reunion or, hey, we have some family back in town. Family reunions are important. But family reunions do not define family. Family chores are necessary responsibilities, but do not define my family. In the same way as all the above, Sunday mornings do not define church, although it is a vital, important part of church family. Sunday mornings, just like date night, is part of our weekly routine. But we can't reduce church. We can't reduce God's work to a couple hours Sunday morning. Nor can we reduce God's work to a pastor. Listen, we spend 1/2 to 3/4 of our waking time working. Seriously, think about that. We have roughly, depending on your schedule, 100 to 126 hours a week that we're awake, give or take. And roughly 50, 80, 90 of those hours are spent working. We cannot think or assume that those hours don't count, that those hours are just for a paycheck. If the majority of our time is spent working, then that time, those hours must matter. Can't think that they don't matter, or that they're just another part of our life, but not the faith part. I want to submit this to you, that faith and work are not categories, but rather faith and work are synonyms. You can't have faith without work. You can't have work without faith. This is one of the monster gospel truths that Luther stood up for. That the work of the gospel wasn't reserved for priests, monks, or nuns. Martin Luther taught that the word priest should become as common as the word Christian, because all Christians are priests. Yet for whatever reason, the priesthood of all believers has been much less understood, taught, and expounded on in writing, for whatever reason. And I think, again, because we just tend to camp out on fall, and that's doing the redeeming. That's it. When Luther referred to the priesthood of all believers, he was asserting that the plowboy, was that on anyone's list growing up? When I grew up, I want to be a plowboy. Or the milkmaid. Any ladies in here were really aspiring to be milkmaids? No? Okay. But he was asserting that the plowboy and the milkmaid could do priestly work. In fact, their plowing and milking was priestly work. So there was no hierarchy where the priesthood was a vocation and the milking a cow was not. Both were tasks that God called his followers to do, each according to his gifts. And I wish we had a lot more time to talk about gifts. 1 Peter 2, 9 through 10, this is in the Message, says, "But you are the ones chosen by God, chosen for the high calling of priestly work, chosen to be a holy people, God's instrument to do his work and speak out for him, to tell others of the night and day differences he made in you, from nothing to something, from rejected to accepted." Colossians 3, 23 through 25. "Servants, do what you are told by your earthly masters, and don't just do the minimum that will get you by. Do your best. Work from your heart, for your real master, for God, confident that you will get paid in full when you come to your inheritance. Keep in mind always that the ultimate master you're serving is Christ." This last part's kind of ouch. "The sullen servant who does shoddy work will be held responsible." Being a follower of Jesus doesn't cover up bad work. Faith and work, synonyms. In our home, we show our commitment and our love for one another by cuddling, by I love yous and dates and fun and playing and tickling. Parties, celebrating, gifts, and dinners together. In our home,
also show our love in our commitment, in our chores, our service, our sacrifice. We show our love and commitment in our work. Now, there's a lot of fun in our home, in our family, but there is a ton of work. And let me tell you that the work matters. Church, gathering here together in community, in a faith family, it matters. Serving here, it really matters. Being committed to one another, it matters. In the last couple of weeks, we're talking about different ways that we can serve one another and make room for others, and ways that we can all get involved and help and greet and serve kids and teach and all those things. Those things matter. Just like changing diapers and doing dishes and paying bills, those things matter. But church, let me tell you, this is just a fraction of our time. It's needed and necessary. But church, your work, what you do, you are a stay-at-home mom working, or you are the CEO of whatever, your work matters. There is no difference in today's Sunday morning and tomorrow or Tuesday when you clock back in. Both today and tomorrow matters to God. Now, let me just end with my own battle and what it really looks like and where the rubber meets the road and this tension. And I want to share, I'll end with a story from Eugene Peterson. I know me. Eugene Peterson says, you should just be you because you're stuck with you. So be the best part of you. Well, I know me. I've lived with myself for quite a while now. And I know that every time that I get to preach the gospel, whether it is in front of you all from the pulpit, whether in word or deed, whether preaching or being a husband or a father, one-on-one, or whether it is at my desk selling carpet, there's a real battle going on. On one hand, there's a man who is broken, who is sinful, ugly, arrogant, lazy, and really desires to be praised and receive a whole bunch of attaboys. That's me. I am a man who is both insecure and proud. How does that fit? I really want you guys to think that I'm awesome, and I'm smart, and I'm funny, and I'm witty. That's what I really desire. That's all garbage. But on the other hand, there's a man who is humbled by the grace of God. Overwhelmed by God's kindness and mercy and relentless love. And a man who genuinely wants everyone to know Jesus. Both of those men are sitting before you. And it is a battle. Again, whether I'm preaching or whether I'm selling carpet, it is a battle. I am ashamed of the sinful man. But I'm not ashamed to tell you. Because I know God is at work in me. It's what we just read. And 1 Peter, show people, tell people about this night and day difference that God has made. Just like you, family, we can share our failures with one another. We are in the same boat. God is doing the redemption and is in the restoration business. And we get to take part in that. I know often we look at what we do or our relationship or what role God has given us in the church or in this world, and we can be pretty critical of ourselves. Eugene Peterson has a house by a lake, and he was sharing this story about this bird called the kingfisher. And he was out on the dock and he's watching this bird, a kingfisher, fish. He's watching him dive, and then he started to count. The kingfisher dove. Remember, he's the king at fishing. He dove 28 times before he caught his meal. And it's not like he's just like bored and I don't really want to work today. No, the kingfisher's starving. He's giving it his all. Failed 28 times. He's the king fisher. Listen, I'm going to fail at doing God's work. We're going to fail at doing God's work. But by God's grace, we will also get back up by faith. We will love and we will serve and we will work, whether in our homes, relationship, or in our vocation, for the glory of God and the good of His people. Church, you matter. What you do, it matters. Being a mom matters. Being a husband, a wife, it matters. It matters in this world. It matters to God. Every time I get a chance to do a wedding or I'm doing premarital counseling, this is what gets echoed the entire time. Love is work, but the work is worth it. So if we're to love God and love others, it's going to be work, but the work is worth it. Amen? And have the band come back. Close in prayer.